This is the Baja 90. It's a 90cc automatic four-wheeler. Real quick, I wanted to show you how to adjust the idle RPM. So if you come right down here on the right side of the four-wheeler, you'll see we have the exhaust pipe coming out right here, and then that's the spark plug. And then if you come right up here, this is the side of the carburetor, and if you look right here, there's this little screw. I'll try to zoom in for you, but that little Phillips head screw, it kind of looks like it has a spring on the back side of it. It's that screw right there. That screw is how you adjust the idle speed. Now, when you're adjusting the idle speed, I'll show you in a second, but I believe you turn it counterclockwise to make the engine idle lower, or clockwise to make the engine idle higher. Now, if your engine is cutting off after you start it, if you give it gas and it runs a little bit, but then it starts to run rough, sometimes you might need to make the engine idle a little higher. Now, on these specifically with the automatic, you want to make sure that you aren't idling the engine too high, because it is a centrifugal clutch, which means if the engine idles high enough, it will engage the clutch and the ATV will start to move forward. And so you want to make sure when you're dialing it up, you don't make the engine idle too high, or else it'll start to move forward on you, or it'll wear your clutch out really quick. And one of the ways you can tell if you've moved it too high is if you look on the other side at your chain, right where the sprocket comes out of the engine. If your engine is idling and you see that chain starting to tug a little bit, then that means that the clutch is starting to engage, which means it's going to wear your clutch out pretty quick. So you want to make sure that you back it down a little bit if that's the case. If your engine is cutting off and it kind of sounds like it's sputtering, then you want to idle the engine, or you want to adjust that idle pin a little higher in order to make the engine idle at a higher RPM to keep fuel and air mixing and combusting inside the engine. Now I'll go ahead and test the idle pin. So I'll start by turning it clockwise, and I believe turning it clockwise should increase the RPMs that the engine idles at. So we'll go ahead and get it started. I'll turn my key on, then I'll go over here, turn this on, start it up. So right now we have the engine idles at a pretty high rate. So I'll zoom in right here. You're going to go to this screw right here, and when you twist it, did you hear how the RPM started to increase as I turned it clockwise? So it's going a little higher. It's starting to catch forward, so that's how I know I want to back off it a little bit. So I'll lower it back down, just a little lower, and it'll start to idle at a lower speed. So if you turn it clockwise, then the engine is going to idle at a higher RPM. If you turn it counterclockwise, the engine is going to idle at a lower RPM.